What up, players? I am back on the attack after a one-night hiatus, and I apologize last night. The cards, it just wasn't in the cards, as they say, but we're going to get right into the book tonight. Maybe read a little bit longer. Not a lot of new stuff in the news today, so maybe we'll read a little bit longer and not focus so much on the news. All right, chapter 25. We are rocking. Actually, quick. Where did we leave off? Oh, the party. That's right. They had gotten invited to the party. And then the weather warms up. Brisk winds, bitter cold, continuous snow showers are followed by blue skies and 50-degree temperature. The snow melts. At first, there are standing puddles in the driveway and the yard, and the road wet with the sounds of splashing tires. But after a day, all the water drains and evaporates, and the cars pass as they do any other day. A lull in the action, a brief reprieve before Old Man Winter takes up the reins again. I sit on the porch waiting for Sarah, staring up at the night sky, full of twinkling stars and a full moon. A thin, knife-like cloud cuts the moon into two and then quickly disappears. I hear the crunch of gravel under the tires. Then headlights come up into view when the car pulls into the driveway. Sarah gets out of the driver's side. She's dressed in dark gray pants, flared at the ankles, a navy blue cardigan sweater beneath a blue jacket. Her eyes are accentuated by the blue shirt peeking out where the jacket zipper ends, her blonde hair falling past her shoulders. She smiles coyly at me and fluttering her eyelashes as she approaches. There are butterflies in my stomach, almost 3 months together, and yet I still grow nervous when I see her. A nervousness that's hard to imagine and will never seem to go away. You look gorgeous, I say. Well, thank you, she says, and bobs a curtsy. You don't look so bad yourself. I kiss Sarah on the cheek. Then Henry walks out of the house and waves to Sarah's mom, who is sitting in the passenger seat of the car. You'll call when you're ready to be picked up, right? Henry asks me. Yes, I say. We walk to the car and Sarah gets behind the wheel. I sit in the back. She's had her learner's permit for a few months now, which means she can drive as long as a licensed driver sits in the passenger seat beside her. Her actual driver's test is on Monday, 2 days away. She's been anxious about it ever since making the appointment over winter break. She backs out of the driveway and she pulls away, eventually flipping the visor down and smiling at me through the mirror, and I smile back. So how was your day, John? Her mother turns to me and asks. We make small talk. She tells me of the trip to the mall the two of them had made earlier in the day and how Sarah drove. I tell her about playing with Bernie Kosar in the yard and about the run we went on after. I don't tell her about the training session that lasted for 3 hours in the backyard after the run. I don't tell her how I split the dead tree's trunk straight down the middle through telekinesis, or how Henry threw knives at me that I deflected into a sandbag 50 feet away. I don't tell her about being lit on fire or the objects that I lifted and crushed and splintered. Another kept secret. Another half-truth that feels like a lie. I would like to tell Sarah I somehow feel that I'm betraying her by keeping myself hidden. And over the last few weeks, the burden has really begun to weigh on me. But I also know I have no other choice. Not at this point, anyhow. So it's this one, Sarah asks. Yes, I say. She pulls into Sam's driveway. He paces at the end of it, dressed in jeans and a wool sweater. He looks up at us with like a deer caught in the headlights, blank stare. There's gel in his hair. I've never seen gel in his hair before. He walks to the side of the car, opens the door, and slides in beside me. Hi, Sam, Sarah says, then introduces him to her mom. Sarah reverses the car and pulls out of the driveway onto the road. Both Sam's hands are planted firmly on his seat in nervousness. Sarah turns turns down the road I've never seen before and makes a right turn into a winding driveway. 30 or so cars are parked along the side of it, and at the end of the driveway, surrounded by trees, is a large 2-story house. We can hear the music well before we reach the house. Geez, nice house, Sam says. You guys be good in there, Sarah's mom says, and be safe. Call if you need anything. If you can't get a hold of your father, she says, looking at me. Will do, Mrs. Hart, I say. When we get out of the car and begin walking to the front door, 2 dogs run up to us from the side of the house, a golden retriever and a bulldog. Their tails are wagging and they're sniffing spastically at my pants, smelling the scent of Bernie Kosar. The bulldog is carrying a stick in his mouth. I wrestle it away from him and I throw it across the yard and both dogs sprint after it. Dozer and Abby, Sarah says. I take it Dozer is the bulldog, I ask. She nods and smiles at me as though an apology. I'm reminded how much she must know about this house. I wonder if it's odd for her to be back now and be back there with me. This is a horrible idea, Sam says. He looks at me. I'm only now realizing that. Why do you think so? Because only 3 months ago, the guy who lives here filled our lockers with cow manure and hit me in the back of the head with a meatball during lunch. And now we're here. I bet Emily is already here, I say, and nudge him in the elbow. The door opens into the foyer. The dogs come rushing in past us and disappear into the kitchen, which lies straight ahead. I can see that Abby is now holding the stick. We're met with the loud music that we have to yell over to be heard. People are dancing in the living room. There are cans of beer in most of their hands. A few people drinking bottled water or soda. Apparently, Mark's parents are out of town. The whole football team is in the kitchen. Half of them are wearing their Letterman jackets. And Mark comes up and he hugs Sarah. Then he shakes my hands. He holds my gaze for a second, then he looks away. He doesn't shake Sam's hand. He doesn't even look at him. Perhaps Sam's right. This may have been a mistake. Happy you guys can make it. Come on in. Beer's in the kitchen. Emily stands in the far corner, talking to other people. Sam looks her way, then asks Mark where the bathroom is, and he points the way. Be right back, Sam says to me. Most of the guys are standing around the island in the middle of the kitchen. They look at me when Sarah and I enter. I look at each of them in turn, and then I grab a bottle of water from the ice bucket. Mark hands Sarah a beer and opens it for her. The way he looks at her makes me realize, yet again, how little I trust him. And I realize now how bizarre this whole situation is. Me being in his house with Sarah, his ex-girlfriend. I'm happy that Sam is with me. I reach down and I play with the dogs until Sam comes out of the bathroom. But then Sarah has made her way to the corner of the living room and is talking to Emily. Sam tenses beside me when he realizes that there's nothing else for us to do but walk up to them and say hello. He takes a deep breath. In the kitchen, the 2 guys have lit a corner of the newspaper on fire for no other reason than to watch it burn. Make sure you compliment Emily, I say to Sam as we approach. There you guys are, Sarah says. I thought you had left me all by my lonesome. Wouldn't dream of it, say. Hi, Emily, how are you? I'm good, she says. Then to Sam, I like your hair. Sam just looks at her. I nudge him and he smiles. Thank you, he says. You look very nice. Sarah gives me a knowing look. I shrug and I kiss her on the cheek. The music has grown even louder. Sam talks to Emily somewhat nervously, but she laughs after a while, and he eases up a little. So are you okay? Sarah asks me. Of course, I'm with the prettiest girl at the party. How could things be better? Oh, shush. Oh, shush, she says, and she pokes me in the stomach. The 4 of us dance for an hour or so. The football players keep drinking. Somebody shows up with a bottle of vodka, and not long after, one of them, I don't know which, throws up in the bathroom so that the smell of vomit wafts throughout the whole downstairs. Another one passes out on the living room sofa. Some of the others draw with marker on his face. People keep filtering in and out, and the doorway leading to the basement. I have no idea what's going on down there. I haven't seen Sarah for the past 10 minutes. I leave Sam and I walk through the living room and the kitchen, then walk up the stairs. White, thick carpet lined with art and family portraits. Some of the bedroom doors are open, some are closed. I don't see Sarah. I walk back downstairs, and Sam is standing sullenly beside himself in the corner. I walk over to him. Why the long face, I ask. He shakes his head. Don't make me lift you in the air and turn you upside down like I did that guy in Athens. I smile, but Sam doesn't. I just got cornered by Alex Davis, he says. Alex Davis is another of Mark's brood, a wide receiver for the team. He's a junior, tall and thin. I've never talked to him before, and likewise know little about him. What do you mean you got cornered? We just talked. He saw that I've been talking to Emily. I guess they dated over the summer. So what? Why does that bother you? He shrugs. It just sucks. It bothers me, okay? Sam, do you know how long Sarah and Mark dated? For a long time. 2 years, I say. Does it bother you? He asks. Not in the least. Who cares about the past? Besides, look at Alex, I say, and I nod to him standing in the kitchen. He's slumped against the kitchen counter, his eyes aflutter, a thin layer of sweat glistening on his forehead. Do you really think she misses being with that? Sam looks at him and shrugs. You're a good dude, Sam Goody. Don't get down on yourself. I'm not down on myself. Well then, don't worry about Emily's past. We don't have to be defined by the things we did or we didn't. We don't have to be defined by the things we did or didn't do in our past. Some people allow themselves to be controlled by regret. Maybe it's a regret, maybe it's not. It merely something that happens. So get over it. Sam sighs, and he's still wrestling with it. Go on, she likes you. There's nothing to be scared of, I say. I am, though. Best way to deal with your fear is to confront it. Just walk up to her and kiss her. I bet you she kisses you back. Sam looks at me and he nods. Then he goes to the basement where Emily is hanging out. The two dogs come wrestling into the living room, tongues dangling, tails wagging. Dozer drops his chest on the ground and waits for Abby to come near enough and then jumps at her and she jumps away. I watch them until they disappear up the stairs, playing tug of war with a rubber toy. It's 1:45. A couple is making out on the couch across the room. The football players are still drinking in the kitchen. I'm starting to get sleepy. I still can't find Sarah. Just then, one of the football players comes rushing up the basement stairs, a crazed, frantic look on his eyes. He rushes to the kitchen sink, turns on the water as high as it will go, and begins throwing open the kitchen cupboards. There's a fire downstairs. He says to the guys nearby. They begin filling pots and pans with water. One of them rushes down the stairs. Emily and Sam come up the stairs, and Sam looks shaken. What's wrong, I say. The house is on fire. How bad? Is any fire good? And I think we started it. We knocked a candle into the curtain. Sam and Emily both look disheveled and have clearly been making out. I make a mental note to congratulate Sam later. Have you seen Sarah? I ask Emily, and she shakes her head. More guys rush upstairs, Mark James with them. There is fear in their eyes. For the first time, I smell smoke, and I look at Sam. Go outside, I say. He nods, and he takes Emily's hand, and they leave together. Some of the others follow, and some of them stay where they are, watching with drunken curiosity. A few people stand around, stupidly patting the football players on the back as they rush up and down the basement stairs, cheering them on as if it was a joke. I go to the kitchen and I grab the largest thing left, a medium-sized metal pot. I fill it with water and then I go downstairs. Everybody has evacuated aside from us battling the blaze, which is far bigger than I had expected. Half the basement is consumed with flames. Dousing it with the little water I have is completely futile. I don't try. Instead, I drop the pot and I dash back up. Mark comes flying down. I stop him in the middle of the stairways. His eyes are swimming in booze. But through it, I can see that he's terrified, that he's desperate. Forget about it, I say. It's too big. We have to get everyone out. He looks down the stairs at the fire. He knows that what I've said is true. The tough guy front is gone, and there's no pretending. Mark, I yell. He nods, and he drops the pot, and we go back up together. Everybody out now, I yell when we get to the top of the stairs. Some of the drunker ones don't move. Some of them laugh. One person says, "Where's the marshmallows?" Mark slaps him across the face. "Get out," he screams. I rip the cordless phone from the wall and I shove it into Mark's hand. Dial 911. I yell over the loud voices and the music that blares, that from somewhere like a soundtrack to the erupting pandemonium. The floor is getting warm. Smoke begins to billow up from beneath us. Only then do people take it seriously. I start pushing them towards the door. I dart past Mark as he begins dialing, and I rush through the house. I take the stairs 3 at a time, and I kick through open doors. One couple is making out in a bed. I yell at them both to get out. Sarah's nowhere to be found. I sprint back down the stairs and through the door to the dark, cold night. People are standing around watching. Some of them, I can tell, are excited by the prospect of a house burning down. Some laugh. I can feel myself beginning to panic. Where is Sarah? Sam stands at the back of the crowd, which must total 100 people, and I turn to him. Have you seen Sarah? I ask. No, he says. I look back at the house. People are still coming out. The basement windows glow red, flames licking against the panes of glass. One of them is open. Black smoke pours out and floats high in the air. I weave through the crowd, and just then an explosion rattles the house. All the basement windows shatter. Some of the people cheer. The flames have reached the first floor, and they're moving fast. Mark James stands at the front of the crowd, unable to divert his gaze away from it. His face is illuminated by an orange glow. There are tears in his eyes and a look of despair. The same look that I saw in the eyes of the Lorik the day of the invasion. What an odd thing it must be to watch everything you've ever known be destroyed. The fire spreads with hostility and with disregard. All Mark can do is watch. Flames are beginning to rise past the first floor windows. We can feel the heat in our faces from where we stand. Where's Sarah? I ask him. He doesn't hear me. I shake him by the shoulder. He turns and he looks at me with the blankness that suggests he still doesn't believe that his own eyes, what his own eyes are telling him. Where's Sarah? I ask again. I don't know, he says. I start to weave through the crowd looking for her, getting more and more frantic. Everyone is watching the blaze. The vinyl siding has begun to bubble and melt. The curtains in the windows have all burned away. The front door stands open, smoke pouring out of the top of it like an upside-down waterfall. We can see all the way into the kitchen, which is an inferno. On the left side of the house, the fire has reached the second floor, and that's when we all hear it. A terrible scream, the dogs barking. My heart drops. Every person there stares to listen, and hoping like hell we didn't hear what we just know we did. And then it comes again, unthinkable. It comes in a torrent, and this time it doesn't let up. Gasps filter through the crowd. Oh no, Emily says. Oh God, no, please no. Boy, it'd be bad if I stopped right there. Oh, sorry guys, gotta go. We can't finish anymore. I wouldn't do that to you. I would not do that to you. Chapter 26. Nobody speaks. All eyes are wide open, staring up in shock. Sarah and the dogs must be somewhere in the back. I close my eyes and I lower my head. All I can smell is the smoke. Just remember what's at stake, Henry had warned. I know damn well what's at stake, but still his voice echoes. My life and now Sarah's life. There is another scream, terrified and severe. I feel Sam's eyes on me. He has seen firsthand my resistance to fire, but he knows how I am hunted. I glance around. Mark is on his knees, rocking himself back and forth. He wants it over. He wants the dogs to stop barking, but they don't stop. He takes each bark as though being stabbed in the gut with a knife. Sam, I say, and I say that only he can hear, I'm going in. He closes his eyes. He takes a deep breath. He fixes me with a stare. Go get her, he says. I hand him my phone and I tell him to call Henry. And if for some reason I didn't make it out, he nods. I begin moving to the back of the crowd, weaving in and out of the mass of bodies. Nobody pays attention to me. When I finally reach the back, I made a mad dash for the yard's perimeter, then sprint to the rear of the house so that I can enter without being seen. The kitchen is completely submerged in fire, and I watch it for a brief moment. I can hear Sarah and the dogs. They sound closer now. I take a deep breath, and with that breath, other things come. Anger, determination, hope, and fear. I let them in. I feel them all. And then I lunge forward and I sweep across the yard and I burst into the house. I'm swallowed by the inferno immediately, hearing nothing but the crackle and hum of the flames. My clothes catch fire. There is no end to the blaze. I move to the front of the house and half of the stairs have burned away. What is left is on fire, looking brittle. But there isn't time to test them. I rush up, but they collapse under my weight when I reach the halfway point. I tumble down with them. The fire rising as though someone has stoked the flames. Something pierces my back, and I grip my teeth, still holding my breath. I stand from the rubble, and I listen to Sarah screaming. She's screaming, and she's scared, and she's going to die. Die a hideous, miserable death if I don't get to her. Time is short. I have to jump the second floor. I jump and I grab hold of the edge of the floor and pull myself up. The fire is spread to the other side of the house. She and the dogs are somewhere to my right. I leap down the hallway, checking the rooms. The pictures on the walls have burned in their frames. Nothing more than blackened nothing but blackened silhouettes melted into the wall. Then my foot falls to the floor and my breath catches in surprise and I breathe it in. Nothing but smoke and flame enter. I begin coughing. I cover my mouth with my arm, but it does little to help. Smoke and fire are burning my lungs. I drop to my knee, coughing and gasping. Then a fury surges through me and I stand up and I move on, hunched over, gritting my teeth, determined. And then I find them. In the last room on the left, Sarah is screaming, "Help!" The dogs are whining and crying. The door is closed and I kick it open, sending it flying off its hinges. All three of them are huddled as tightly against one another as far in the corner as they can get. Sarah sees me and yells my name and starts to stand. I motion to her to stay where she is, and I step into the room. A huge flaming support beam falls between us. I raise my hand and I send it upwards, crashing it through what remains of the roof. Sarah seems confused by what she's seen. I leap forward, covering 20 feet in a single bound, moving straight through the flames without them affecting me at all. The dogs are at her feet. I push the bulldog into her arms and I pick up the retriever. With my other arm, I help her stand. "You came," she says. "No one and nothing will ever hurt you as long as I'm alive," I say back to her. Aww. Another huge beam falls and takes out part of the floor, landing in the kitchen below us. We need to get out of the back of the house so no one sees me or sees what I'm going to need to do. I hold Sarah tight against my side and the dog against my chest. We take 2 steps, then leap over the flaming chasm created by the fallen beam. As we start to move down the hall, a huge explosion below takes out most of it. The hallway is gone. Where it used to be a wall and a window quickly consumed by flames. Our only chance is through the window. Sarah is screaming again, clutching my arm, and I can feel the dog's claws digging into my chest. I lift my hand towards the window and I stare at it and focus. It blows out the frame, leaving us the opening we need. I look at Sarah, pulling her securely against my side. "Hold on tight," I say. I take 3 steps and I dive forward. The flames swallow us whole, but we fly through the air like a bullet, heading straight towards the opening. I'm worried we're not going to make it. We barely clear it, and I feel the edge of the shattered frame scrape against my arms and the tops of my legs. I hold Sarah and the dog as best as I can and twist my body so that I land on my back and everyone else will be on top of me. We hit the ground with a thud. Dozer goes rolling and Abby yelps. I hear the breath go out of Sarah. We're about 30 feet behind the house. I feel a cut on the top of my head from the broken glass of the window. Dozer is the first one up. He seems fine. Abby is a little slower. She limps on her front paw, but I think it isn't anything serious. I lie on my back and I hold Sarah. She is starting to cry and I can smell her singed hair. Blood drips down the side of my face and it gathers in my ear. I sit in the grass to catch my breath. Sarah is in my arms. The bottom of my shoes have melted. My shirt is completely burned away. So have most of my jeans. Small cuts traverse the length of both arms, but I am not burned at all. Dozer walks over and he licks my hand, and I pet him. You're a good boy, I say, between Sarah's sobs. Go on, get your sister and go back up front. There are sirens in the distance that should have been here within the next minute or two. The woods are about 100 yards from the back of the house. Both dogs sit watching me. I nod to the front of the house, and they get up as if they understand, and both begin walking that way. Sarah is still in my arms. I turn her so she is cradled in them, and I can stand and head to the woods, carrying her as she cries on my shoulder. Just as I enter them, I hear the whole crowd erupt in cheers. Dozer and Abby must have been seen. The woods are dense, the full moon still shines, but there is little light coming from it. I turn on my hands so that we can see, and I start to shiver. Panic sweeps through me. How will I explain this to Henry? I'm wearing what now looks like singed cutoffs. My head is bleeding, so is my back, along with various cuts on my arms and legs. My lungs feel as though they are on fire with every breath I take. And Sarah is in my arms. She now must know what I can do and what I am capable of, or at least some of it. I'm going to have to explain everything to her. I'll have to tell Henry she knows. I already have too many strikes against me. He'll say someone will slip at some point. He'll insist we leave, and there's no way around it. I set Sarah down. She stopped crying. She looks at me confused, scared, bewildered. I know I need to get some clothes and get back to the party so that people aren't suspicious. I need to get Sarah back so people don't think she's dead. You okay to walk, I say? I think. Follow me. Where are we going? I need to get some clothes. Hopefully, one of the football players has a change of clothes for after practice. We start walking through the woods, and I'm going to circle around and look inside people's cars for something to wear. What just happened, John? What is happening? You're in a fire, and I got you out of it. What you did isn't possible. It is for me. What's that supposed to mean? I look at her. I had hoped never to have to tell her what I'm about to tell her, even though I knew it probably wasn't realistic. I had hoped to stay hidden in paradise. Henry has always said never to get too close to anyone, because if you do, at some point they're going to notice that you're different, and that will require an explanation. And that means we have to leave. My heart is pounding. My hands are shaking, but not because I'm cold. Oh, excuse me. If we have any hope of staying or getting away with what we did tonight, I have to tell her. I am not who you think I am, I say. Who are you? I am number 4. What's that supposed to mean? Sarah, it's going to sound stupid and crazy. But what I'm about to tell you is the truth. You have to believe me. She touches her hand to the side of my face. If you say it's the truth, then I'll believe you. It is. Then tell me. I am an alien. I am the 4th of 9 children sent to Earth after our planet was destroyed. I have powers unlike any human, powers that allow me to do things like I did in the house. And there are other aliens here on Earth that are hunting me, the ones who attacked my planet. And if they find me, they will kill me. I expect her to slap me or to laugh at me or to scream. There, that's better. Or turn and run away. She stops, she looks at me, and she looks me right in the eyes. You're telling me the truth, she says. Yes, I am. I look into her eyes, willing her to believe me. She stares searchingly at me for a long moment and then nods. Thank you for saving my life. I don't care what you are or where you are from. To me, you're John, the boy I love. Aww. What? I love you, John. and you saved my life, and that's all that's important. Oh, she loves me. Oh, jeepers creepers. I love you too, and I always will, I say. I wrap my arms around her and I kiss her. After a minute or so, she pulls away. Let's go find you some clothes and get back so people know we're okay. Oh, I need tissues. Sarah finds a change of clothes in the fourth car we check. They're close enough to know what I was wearing. They're close enough to what I was wearing. Jeans and a button-down shirt. Oh my goodness, excuse me. So no one will notice the difference. When we reach the house, we stand as far away as possible while still being able to see. The house has collapsed in on itself and is now nothing more than a twisted heap of blackened coals, soggy with water. Wisps of smoke sporadically rise, looking ghastly in the night sky. There are 3 fire trucks. I count 6 cop cars, 9 sets of flashing lights, but no sound to go with them. Few people, if any, have left. They've been pushed back, and the house is cordoned off with yellow tape. The police officers are questioning some of them. 5 firemen stand in the middle of it all, sifting the rubble. Then I hear, "There they are!" yelled from behind me. Every set of eyes in the crowd turns my way. It takes me a full 5 seconds to realize that it's me the person is referring to. 4 police officers walk towards us. Behind them is a man holding a notepad with a tape recorder. While we were looking for the clothes, Sarah and I agreed to a story. I came around the back of the house where she was watching the fire. She had jumped out of the second floor with the dogs who had run away. We had watched away from the crowd, but eventually drifted over and joined it. I explained to her that we couldn't tell anyone about what happened, not even Sam or Henry. That if anyone found out the truth, I would have to leave immediately. We agreed that I would answer the questions, and she would agree with whatever I said. "Are you John Smith?" one of the cops asked me. The officer is of medium height, stands with his shoulders hunched. He isn't overweight, but is far from being in shape, with a slight paunch and an overall look of softness. "Yes, why?" "2 people said they saw you run into that house, then come flying out of the back like Superman with the dogs and the girl in your arms." "Seriously?" I ask in disbelief. Sarah stays behind me. "That's what they said." I fake laugh. The house was on fire. Do I look like I was inside a burning house?" He scrunches his eyebrows together and rests his hands on his hips. "So you're telling me you didn't go in there?" "I came around the back to try to find Sarah," I say. "She had gotten out with the dogs. We stayed back there and we watched the fire, and then we came over here." The officer looks at Sarah. "Is that true?" "Yes." "Well, who ran into the house then?" The reporter beside him chimes in. It's his first time speaking. He watches me with shrewd, judging eyes, and I can already tell that he doesn't believe my story. "How do I know?" I say. He nods his head and writes something in his notebook. I can't read what he says. He nods his foreheads and he writes something in the book. Again. "So you're telling me these 2 witnesses are liars?" the reporter asks. "Baines," the officer says, shaking with his head, and I nod. "I didn't go into the house and save her with the dogs. They were outside." "Who said anything about saving her or the dogs?" Baines asks. I shrug. "I thought that's what you were implying." "I didn't imply anything." Sam walks up with my phone. I try to fix him with a stare, and I tell him the timing is bad. But he doesn't understand, and he hands me the phone anyways. "Thanks," I say. "I'm happy you're okay," he says, and the officer glares at him, and he slinks away. Baines watches with eyes squinted. He's chewing gum, trying to piece the information together. He nods to himself. "So you handed your phone to your friend before you went for a walk?" he asks. "I handed him my phone during the party. It was uncomfortable in my pocket." "I bet it was," Baines says. "So where did he go?" "All right, Baines, that's enough questions," the officer says. "Can I leave?" I ask him. He nods his head, and I walk away with my phone in my hands, dialing Henry's number with Sarah at my side. Hello, answers Henry. I'm ready to be picked up. There's been a terrible fire here. What? Can you just pick us up? Yes, I'll be right there. So how do you explain the cut on the top of your head? Baines asked me from behind. He'd been following me, listening to my call to Henry. I cut it on a branch in the woods. How convenient, he says, and again writes something into his notebook. You know I can tell when I'm being lied to, right? I ignore him. I keep walking away with Sarah's hand in mine. We head over to Sam. I'll find the truth, Mr. Smith. I always do, Baines yells behind me. I'll read a little bit more. Henry is on the way, I say to Sam and Sarah. What the hell was that all about? Sam asks. Who knows? Somebody thinks they saw me run in. Probably somebody who drank too much. I say more at Baines than Sam. We stand at the end of the driveway until Henry arrives. When he pulls up, he steps out of the truck and he looks at the smoldering house far off in the distance. Aw, hell, promise me you weren't part of this, he says. I wasn't, I say. We get into the truck. He pulls away while looking at the smoking rubble. You guys smell like smoke, Henry says. None of us reply, making the drive in silence. Sarah sits on my lap. We drop Sam off first, and Henry pulls out of the driveway and points the trucks towards Sarah's house. I don't want to leave you tonight, Sarah says to me. I don't want you to leave either. When we arrive at her house, I get out and I walk her to the door. She won't let go of me and I hug her goodnight. Will you call me when you get home? Of course. I love you. I smile. I love you too. She goes inside and I walk back to the truck where Henry is waiting. I have to figure out a way to keep him from finding out the truth about tonight, from making us leave paradise. Henry pulls out and he drives home. So what happened to your jacket, he asks. It was in Mark's closet. What happened to your head? I hid it trying to get out when the fire first started. He looks over at me doubtedly. You're the one who smells like smoke. I shrug. There was a lot of it. So who started it? Drunkenness is my guess. Henry nods and he turns down our road. Well, he says, it will be interesting to see what's in the papers Monday. He turns and he looks at me, studying my reaction. I keep silent. Yes, I think it most certainly will be. All right, let's read 2 more pages and then there's a little chapter break. I can't sleep and I lie in bed staring through the darkness at the ceiling. I call Sarah and we talk for 3 hours. I hang up and I lie there with my eyes wide open. At 4, I crawl out of bed and I walk out of the room. Henry sits at the kitchen table drinking coffee. He looks up at me, bags beneath his eyes, hair tousled. What are you doing, I ask. I couldn't sleep either, he says, scouring the news. Find anything? Yes, but I'm not sure what it means to us yet. The men who wrote and published They Walk Among Us, the men we met, were tortured and killed. Dun, dun, dun. I sit across from him. What? Police found them when the neighbors called after hearing screams coming from the house. They didn't know where we lived. No, they didn't, thankfully. But it means the Magadorians are getting bolder, and they're closer. If we see or hear anything else out of the ordinary, we're going to need to leave immediately. No questions asked, no discussion. Okay, how's your head? Sore, I say. It took 7 stitches to close the cut. Henry did it himself. I'm wearing a baggy sweatshirt. I'm certain one of the cuts on my back needs stitches as well, but that would require me to take my shirt off. And how would I explain the other cuts and scrapes to Henry? He'll know for sure what happened. My lungs still burn. If anything, the pain has grown worse. So the fire started in the basement? Yes. And you were in the living room? Yes. How did you know it started in the basement? Because all the guys came running up. And you knew everyone was out of the house by the time you went inside? Yes. How? I could tell he's trying to get me to contradict myself. that he's skeptical of my story. I'm certain he doesn't believe that I merely stood out front watching like everyone else. I didn't go in, I say. It pains me to do so, but I look him in the eyes and I lie. I believe you, he says. Hey, we got it. Let's keep. Come on. Can we keep? Let's keep reading. I wait. I wait close to noon. Birds are chirping behind the window. The sunlight is pouring in. I breathe a sigh of relief. The fact that I was allowed to sleep this late means that there was no news to incriminate me. If there had been, I would have been pulled out of bed and told to pack. I roll off my back, and that's when the pain hits. My chest feels as though somebody is pushing down in it and squeezing me. I can't take full breaths. When I try, there's a sharp pain in it, and it scares me. Bernie Kosar is snoring in a ball at my side. I wake him by wrestling with him. He groans at first, then he wrestles back. That is the beginning to our day. Me rousing the snoring dog beside me. His wagging tail, his dangling tongue immediately make me feel better. Never mind the pain in my chest. Never mind what the day might bring. Henry's truck is gone, and on the table is a note. Ran to the store, be back at 1. I walk outside, and I have a headache, and my arms are red and splotchy. The cuts slightly raised as though I've been scratched by a cat. I don't care about the cuts, or my headache, or the burning in my chest. What I care about is that I'm still here in Ohio. That tomorrow I'll be going back to the same school I'd gone to for the past 3 months now, and that I will see Sarah tonight. Henry gets home at 1. There is a haggard look in his eyes that tells me he still hasn't slept. After he unloads the groceries, he goes into his bedroom and he closes the door. Bernie Kosar and I go for a walk in the woods, and I try to run. I'm able to for a little while, but after a half mile or so, the pain is too great and I have to stop. We walk on for what must be 5 miles. The woods end at another country road and look similar to ours. I turn around and I walk back. Henry is still in his room with the door closed when I return. I sit on the porch. I tense every time a car passes. I keep thinking one of them will stop, but none of them do. The confidence I felt when I woke up is slowly chipped away as the day wanes. The Paradise Gazette isn't printed on Sunday. Will there be a story tomorrow? I suppose I expected a call to arrive, or the same reporter to show up at our doorstep, or one of the officers to ask more questions. I don't know. I'm so worried about a small-time reporter. He had been persistent, too persistent, and I know he didn't believe my story. But nobody comes to the house, and no one calls. I expected something, and when that something doesn't come, a dread creeps about me, and that I'm about to be exposed. I'll find the truth, Mr. Smith. I always do, Baines said. I consider running into town trying to find him and dissuade him from any such truth. But I know that would only encourage suspicion. All I can do is hold my breath and hope for the best. I wasn't in that house. I have nothing to hide. Sarah comes over that night, and we go into my room, and I hold her in my arms, lying on my back on the bed. Her head is against my chest, and her leg is draped over me. She asks me questions about who I am, my past, about Lorien, about the Magadorians. I'm still amazed at how quickly and easily Sarah believed everything, and how she accepted it. I answer everything truthfully, which feels good after all the lies I've told her over the last few days. But when we talk about the Magadorians, I start to get scared. I'm worried that they'll find us, that what I did will expose us. I would do it again, for it didn't end with Sarah being dead. But I am scared. I am also scared of what Henry is going to do if he finds out. Though he is not biologically, for all intents and purposes, he is my father. I love him and he loves me, and I do not want a disappointment. As we lie there, my fear begins to reach new levels. I can't take not knowing what the next day will bring. The uncertainty is sawing me in two. The room is dark. A flickering candle burns on the window ledge a few feet away. I take a deep breath, which is to say, As deep a breath as I can take. Are you okay? Sarah asks. I wrap my arms around you. I miss you, I say. You miss me, but I'm right here. That's the worst to miss. That's the worst way to miss somebody, when they're right beside you and you miss them anyways. You're talking crazy. She reaches up and she pulls my face to her and she kisses me. Her soft lips on mine. I don't want her to stop. I don't want her ever to stop kissing me. As long as she is, then everything will be fine. Everything is right. I would stay in this room forever if I could. The world can pass by without me, without us, just as long as we can stay here together in each other's arms. Tomorrow, I say. She looks at me. Tomorrow what? I shake my head. I don't really know, I say. I guess I'm just scared. She flashes a confused look at me. Scared of what? I don't know, I say. I'm just scared. Whoa. All right. I am number 4. We are, well, we're, without a doubt, we're just, let me think about this. We're almost 80, we're past 75%. Let me think. Actually, that's not true. We are mathematically, there's 440 pages in the book. We're at 331. So that means we are exactly 75% of the way through the book. There's a piece of lemon in my tea. Oh, my youngest son, Tig, used to, when he was little, and holy cow, it wasn't that bad, but his mom, like if we went to a restaurant and he got like water with lemon, he would always, 5-year-old kid asked for water with lemon, and he would take the lemon out and he would go, and he would chomp on it, and it's like, wah, right? I like lemon, but all that lemon at once, his whole life he's loved it. I think he would probably take a whole lemon if he could and just chew it. Not I. No way. Too much. And honestly, I think I'd probably do it with a lime. I think I could probably stand taking a lime and eating like half a lime, like you eat an orange, but a lemon, ooh. All right. So we're a little late. It's 10 to 10, but we can get through this news. There's not a ton of new news, my friends. There just isn't. As a matter of fact, some people, I guess, have kind of criticized Governor Cuomo the past few days because people have kind of went, dude, there's like the past week, dude, there's nothing new. What's the deal? And I think here's the thing. Well, what if he didn't have the press conference? They'd probably be saying, Governor Cuomo, where are you? We need to know, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what? He got up there and he did his thing, and that's where it is. He can't make up the news, right? You can't just say, well, hey, today in Rotterdam, New York, 5 houses exploded and blah. No, right? No, he's not going to do it. So he did report that now, and here's the big thing. So we're down to yesterday only 58 people. Again, I keep saying that. 58 people died of the COVID illness yesterday. So when we look at when it was the worst, right, this number is down. It's way down, which is good. And tomorrow, phase 2 is supposed to start right in the Capital District. So all the numbers are headed in the right direction. So phase 2 is retail, real estate, hair salons, and then professional services like accountants and lawyers and all that kind of stuff can fully open back up. So, that's good news, right? Slowly but surely. But here's kind of the controversial news from today. The controversial news from today is June 29th, summer camps can open. Day camps. Okay? Not stayover camps. We still have a question mark, but day camps. So, like when I was younger, when I was a wee lad, for a few summers when I lived in Albany until I was 18. Well, for the most part, I lived in Albany, I guess, until my mid 20s, late 20s, and then I moved out of the Albany area. But anyway, we used to have 4-H camps in the big parks in Albany, and I used to go to 4-H day camp. So I don't know, it was 5 blocks. No, not even 2 blocks from my house. You go in the morning, blah, blah, blah. Your parents went to work. You did your thing. You had lunch there. You goofed around, blah, blah, blah. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you went home. Right? So day camps. So those camps can open. But here's the question. Here's the thing. And way back when we weren't even thinking, like we didn't even know when things were going to open, I said to you guys all the time, the reopening was going to be more difficult. Where this is where things are starting to get a little nutty. So, I am on the board at the library. We are aggressively now starting to put together our plan to reopen the library. But libraries have not been given the full go ahead and reopen sign yet. So here's what I'm thinking. You're going to let hundreds of kids at a day camp, but you're not going to let a library open yet. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel. Does that make sense? The one thing like we have to do, let's say I borrowed this book, right? I borrowed I Am Number 4 from the library. I read the book. I return it. The library has to take the book. They have to put it in a room for 3 to 5 days. Then they can put it back in the circulation. So they know that after 3 to 5 days, that if there was COVID on this, it is now dead. So, a DVD, whatever. But we can't open. So we're hoping to start doing some curbside service at some point. And then I don't even know when we could start letting people back in the library. But so I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something here. But to me, there's something a little bit off. Like I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't know. I kind of feel like if a summer camp can open with a couple hundred kids, a library should be able to open. And quite honestly, the libraries, we're not like turning people like, oh, the library is at full capacity, right? I do think like if we opened, we probably couldn't open up we'd have to take the computers away. I think we have 10 computers, maybe. 10, 12 computers. I think we'd have to take them and put them away. We couldn't let people use those, but sit in the library 6 feet apart, read, chill in the air conditioning. You know what? I don't know. Anyway, that's where we're at with that. So more of what we'll get to President Trump. Let's talk about Andrew Cuomo first, our governor. One of the things that is being reported. So, here's the problem with the media, and it's not just American media. I think it's media in general, is that we keep seeing protests, seeing horrible stuff. Was it Pittsburgh? People took full cans of paint and dumped them over the World War I memorial in Pittsburgh. What the hell, people, right? I'm sorry. I just don't get it. I think 2 people were shot. I don't remember where, but, we keep hearing about the bad stuff that's happening. However, A majority of protests around the country are peaceful, but I still don't get it. And I guess last night the looting and the rioting in New York City was really bad. And Governor Cuomo said, "I'm disappointed and I'm outraged." And apparently, as a result of all this, there are 13,000 National Guard, New York State National Guard that are now, on standby, ready to be called up. So, the National Guard, if you don't know, if you think back to, colonial times, we talked about the militia way back in September, right? The militia. So, in a lot of towns across the colonies at that point, men would come together and they would train. If anybody ever attacked the town, they would come together as a defensive measure. They were not offensive. They weren't, we're going to go attack the other town. No, we're going to defend where we live. Well, that's what the National Guard is. So, my older son is thinking about going into the military, and he's kind of gone back and forth. Well, what a lot of people do is that they'll go into the military, and typically what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to do so many years of active duty and then so many years as a reservist. Well, what I believe is that you could actually be a reservist and be in the National Guard. So if you live in New York State, well, you're going to be a reservist in the National Guard. You could get called back up to active duty. But what that means is that if there is something that happens within the state, the governor calls up the National Guard, the New York National Guard, and says, "I need 5,000 troops and I need them here." So when the flood hit Middleburg, we had National Guardsmen here. We had Black Hawk helicopters. We had Humvees. We had military vehicles. And I'll tell you, it's crazy. I still have the pictures of the Black Hawk helicopter. When the flood hit, the Black Hawk helicopters were flying up and down the valley, and they landed in my mother-in-law's, well, it was technically her property, but in between her house and her neighbor's house. And the guy came out to us and was like, "Is everybody okay? Do you guys have everybody accounted for?" And, we're like, "Yeah, as far as we know where all the neighbors are and everything." And the helicopter lifted up, and that's what the National Guard does. So it can also help in times like this. 9/11, right? When the planes hit the towers, at the time, Governor Pataki picked up the horn and said, "I need, X thousands of National Guardsmen to come down to New York City." And they did. They responded. So they are ready to go, and they're ready to stand by. And I apologize. It's not just National Guardsmen. It's also state police that are on standby. So if need be, Governor Cuomo might take, state troopers from up here and pull them down to New York City to help. But there was a lot of looting and destruction in the city. One of the things that I've seen that is, I think, very touching in regards to everything that's happening is that there are a lot of police officers and there are a lot of police chiefs across the country that are doing some pretty cool symbolic stuff. So, for instance, a lot of police officers are going to these protests to keep an eye on the protests. And what they're doing is they're marching with people and they're taking a knee with people, right? They're doing this new symbolic take a knee. Colin Kaepernick's got to be out there going, I've been saying this, right? And I think that there are a lot of awesome, hardworking police officers out there, Black, white, Asian, whatever, and they are working their butts off. They were working their butts off with the whole COVID thing. Now they've got this all on top of it. And, to just say that the police are bad people because of what, the actions of a couple jackasses is just not cool, right? And I'm still getting a little worried. I mean, I don't know that right now. I know last night I heard there were protesters leaving.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Freaking Siri. Leaving Arbor Hill, and they were walking, I think, up Route 9, Henry Johnson Boulevard, and then up Route 9 towards Loudonville, apparently. Which walking isn't a crime, and I don't think anything happened. But the the town supervisor of Colony instituted a curfew on the town. So, and I know stuff is still happening tonight too. One of the things that I thought that was kind of interesting today was that the police chief in Albany, and I can't remember his name, and the mayor of Albany, Kathy Sheehan, both had a press conference, and they said it is clear to them that there are people that are going to these protests with the intention of inciting violence. So there are people that are pissed. There are people that are yelling. There are people that are fired up, but they're peaceful. And then there are people that are going there and they're just going, hey, does that bug you? 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 Right? And they're just annoying and instigating and trying to get the thing to turn violent. Now, there's been suggestions that in some of the bigger cities, some of these people are being paid. I'm not saying they are, but it is being reported that people are being paid. They're being put on buses and they're being told, we're going to drop you off at this rally and you are going to start SHIT. I don't know if it's true or not, but it is being reported across the country. And I'm not saying there's any person in particular that's paying them. Now, one of the things that the Surgeon General, the U.S. Surgeon General, a person appointed by President Trump, is saying is that, this is the top doctor in the country. He is saying the coronavirus will undoubtedly see spikes very soon because of these riots. And I don't think this is necessarily because of the riots. I think it's too quick. But apparently yesterday, Albany County had 10 new cases. So, things were in Albany County kind of holding fast. And I believe they actually went a couple days without new cases. And now in one day, we see 10 cases. So we'll see what's going to happen with that. Two things, though, on the national and international spotlight. So the Democratic or the primaries are still happening. But what we know, ladies and gentlemen, is this, is that Bernie Sanders could win every single primary from here until the end, but Joe Biden's still going to win. Joe Biden has enough votes. He's going to have a majority of the votes, delegates, to be the Democratic nominee. So for a while, Biden was kind of laying low. Nothing really was happening. And he wasn't really doing anything. And then all of the sudden today, it was like, and I would say in the past few days, he's kind of been like winding up. And then today, whack, he threw the punch and he went after President Trump. President Trump, had that quote, when the looting starts, the shooting starts, right? He apparently Sunday, had some protesters were by the church that he goes to, and the police tear gassed the protesters so that he could go to the church, and he met with the bishop, and apparently he didn't even attend the mass. He didn't even attend the religious service. So, people are kind of saying and he was holding a Bible, right? I guess as he walked in. So people said this was kind of a stunt, and now Biden has really started to take swings at him, and is kind of calling him out. And so we'll see, but I think it started. I think it has. I think the race for the presidency has officially, and that jabbing back and forth has officially begun, and we're going to start to see a lot more of it. And today, Justin Trudeau, who is the Prime Minister of Canada, was being asked some questions about COVID-19, and he was asked questions, and he had given, I guess, a little speech, and he was asked some questions about the race problems in our country. And one of the reporters said, well, what do you think about President Trump and his comments about looting? When the looting starts, the shooting starts. And apparently Trudeau just did this. And he just kind of stood there, they said, for 20 seconds. And he refused to answer. He refused to say anything. So Justin Trudeau has not had a good relationship with President Trump. And, I think a lot of people kind of look at Justin Trudeau and they kind of say that he's Canada's, in a way, he's kind of like Canada's Obama. He's very, very thoughtful, and he doesn't get overly emotional about things. And, I don't know. We'll see. But, the world, guys, is looking at us. And they're kind of going, America, what the bleep, 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 bleep. I know I told you guys about, I'm on this Discord server now with these gaming guys that I met through this podcast. And we hang out on Sundays and we do our geek stuff. And, what we do is we have on the Discord server, you can video chat. So I sit on my iPad and everybody kind of shows, oh, I'm working on this, I'm painting these guys and blah, 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 blah. And, so we just talk about this and that. And a couple of the guys are like, they're like, hey, Mal, I don't make them call me Mr. Martin. I probably should. But they're like, hey, Mal, what the hell is going on in America? And I'm like, yeah, I don't have an answer for you, and they're just kind of like, when? And there's some guys from the Netherlands, there's guys from England, and they just are like, something just is wrong. Something is off. And I think the world is kind of looking at us right now, guys, and saying, hey, America, maybe like this COVID thing should be the priority. And maybe you guys should stop all this, BS. And my cousin put a meme on Facebook today, and it had that the police officer kneeling on the neck of George Floyd. And it said something like, this person should go to jail for the rest of his life. And then on the bottom part of the meme, it had people breaking into the store looting. And it said, these people should go to the jail for the rest of their lives too. And I mean, I don't know that I would disagree. I don't know how. I just don't see how. Hey, this person busted their butt to open up the store. This is maybe their life savings is wrapped up into this store, and now you're just going to smash the living crap out of it and steal stuff from it and light it on fire. How does that make racism stop? I don't know. I don't know, and I'm not going to get it. I'm just not going to get that. Okay, let's do the rundown this day in history, my friends. Oh, we're running a little late, but that's okay. All right, so this day in 1774, the last of the coercive acts, the Quartering Act, was passed. We talked about, again, way back in September, might have been early October, probably it was late September, that when things went kooky in Massachusetts, the British government said, okay, here's the way we're going to make you pay, America. Now that we have to put more British soldiers in America, you hear that knock on the door, and there's a British soldier, and he says, I need a place to live, a place to stay, a meal. You're going to have to let him quarter in your home. You're going to have to let him live in your home, and you're going to have to feed him and provide for him. Room and board, the Quartering Act. On this day in 1865, so it's almost a month and a half after the official surrender at Appomattox Courthouse, but the last group of Confederates west of the Mississippi finally surrender to Union forces. On this day in 1886, I didn't know this, President Grover Cleveland becomes the first president to do something. He becomes the first president to do something in the White House. He is the first president to get married in the White House. Did not know that about him. If I had a guess, I believe, I believe Woodrow Wilson married in his second term. I believe he married. So that would have been my guess. I believe he was a widower, and then he remarried. Yeah, I think it was maybe his second term. So that would have been my guess. In 1935, on this day, and I'm not a huge baseball fan, but Babe Ruth retires. And he retires with the home run record. And that home run record will stand for 39 years. And in 1974, Hank Aaron breaks the record. And then I can't remember, was it Mark McGwire, I think, broke the record. Then Sammy Sosa broke the record. Or no, it wasn't. No, Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa broke the record. That's what it was. It was the record for a single season record. I don't know. You know what? I don't know who has the most all-time home runs in a career. I don't follow baseball. I really don't. Sorry. On this day in 1953, the Queen is the coronation of Queen Elizabeth. So the Queen, the woman who is the Queen right now, she is, there goes the police. No, that was an ambulance, I think. So the Queen is coronated. And then on this day, I guess finishing on a weird kind of note. Whoa, sorry. I'm throwing crap. We will we have in senior year we do a unit on terrorism, and we focus mostly on foreign terrorism, but there have been, of course, many acts of domestic terrorism. Domestic inside the country, foreign outside the country. And Timothy McVeigh, very unhappy with our country, detonates a fertilizer bomb inside of a truck, and he parks it next to a federal building in Oklahoma City. Worst act of domestic terrorism in our nation's history. And after that time, and I remember when it took place. I was no, I think it was after college. I think it actually might have been right as I was leaving college, and they started putting all those concrete barriers. Now, if you go to a federal building, there are concrete barriers all around the building, so you can't get close to the building. And I remember I was going to a concert at the Palace, and I don't remember what the concert was. But you know what? It was friends. I think it was right after college. And we were going, and I remember they had put these huge, like massive concrete blocks. They just looked out of place. But it was not long after that attack, and they did it all across the country. So that attacks like that couldn't be carried out. So we have enemies, unfortunately, and people in our country that don't like us, and there are people outside the country. And when it comes to solving the problems that these people are unhappy about, I don't know who we work with first. I don't know if we say let's deal with the domestic problems or the foreign problems first. I do know. I'm not going to lie. I personally think that we need to deal with problems in our country first. I think that and I've often wondered, like in history, in United States history, we talk about America has gone from a country that believes in like isolation and neutrality, and let's just stay in our house, in our home, in America, and let's not screw with the rest of the world. And then we've gone out and we've screwed with the rest of the world. Well, I've wondered, like, what if we just said, okay, we're going to kind of pull everything back here. And we're just going to really, for like 5 years, focus on things here in America and get things rolling a little bit better here. And I don't mean like build a wall around the entire country and not let anybody in or out. I'm just saying pull back a lot of our influence and focus more on America. I wonder if after 5 years, we would then be able to go, hey, things are better. Maybe there wouldn't be 45,000, veterans every single night living on the streets. Maybe there wouldn't be 1 in 5 children growing up, in poverty. Maybe there wouldn't be 1 in 4 children, that, doesn't have what they need to, grow up in life. The basic necessities. Maybe there wouldn't be problems with education funding. We could go on and on and on. But I've wondered if maybe that's what we really need to do, is we need to kind of heal ourselves. And then once we're healed, go on back out and start to intermingle with the rest of the world and become a global kind of country again. And again, I don't think we can't untether ourselves from the entire world, but maybe we can pull out a little bit. So anyways, my friends, good book, man. I want to keep reading. I'm going to get book 2 down off the shelf here in the next day or two. We'll start warming it up. We're cruising through Wednesday, Thursday. I think if we keep reading the way we've been reading, I don't think there's any reason why we wouldn't be done Sunday night. We should be. We should be done Sunday night. And then we'll start book 2. And like I said, after June 17th, I will continue to read. I think I'll read that week. I'll read through that Friday. And then the following week, which I think starts that Monday, is like the 22nd. I think I'm going to go to 3 days a week. And I think I'm going to do Sunday night, Sunday, Tuesday, Friday. That's what I think I'm going to do, but I'm not 100% sure yet. And I think that'll be like a good kind of break. I guess I kind of, wait a minute. It wouldn't quite be every other night, but almost. So yeah, let's look at it, but we'll do something like that. Anyways, my friends, keep running the marathon. Do not sprint. We are almost there. You've been doing an incredible job. This is not the time to stress out or freak out. Just keep slowly chugging through to the finish line. We can see it, right? Like we can see the finish line down the road. So just keep your eye on it and just keep chugging along, and we will get there. I'm excited to get there. I can't believe that we haven't actually seen each other in person. I can't believe that I don't know. I was thinking about this today. I can't believe that I don't know when I'm going to be standing in front of a class again. I don't know, right? I don't know if I'm going to be standing in front of a class in September. It might be this stuff still. I don't know. We shall see. But anywho, my friends, be good. I miss you. And run that marathon. Don't sprint. No need to. We're almost there. Be good. Have a good night. And I miss you guys.